Hello, everyone. It has been a very long time, and I do apologize for my absence. I have dove in headfirst into remodeling my office. So anybody who didn't catch the very last stream, I think it's close to 2 months ago now. I moved last September, and since then I had set my computer up in a very unfinished basement, and it is now at the point where it is much closer to finished. So this is my maiden voyage. I just got everything set up and ready to rock this week, or yeah, I guess over the weekend. And so hopefully everything's dialed in. Haven't had a lot of opportunity to test. It's been very, very busy. Most of my free time has been occupied with remodeling this basement rather than doing coding, which anyone who knows me knows that I twitch if I don't get an opportunity to spend enough time coding. So it has been a lot, but we are finally here. But updates, because I have a slew of stuff now. Because it's been a little while. It has been a little while since I had this opportunity. So first of all, I am confused why I don't have those turned on. There's the social links. There we go. Okay, up and running. So let's dive in and do a couple things really quick. So first and foremost, and if I can remember how to do this, I'll go here. So for anyone who has missed it, I had the pleasure of being able to sit down with Mads Christensen, who is on the Visual Studio team, to discuss Visual Studio 2026. So at this point, I have uninstalled VS 2022 because I typically have been running preview builds anyway. The Visual Studio preview builds are generally stable enough for me to do day-to-day work on, and I've got a lot of freedom, and as long as I'm productive, I can run whichever edition makes sense. And so VS 2026 has a lot of really nice performance improvements to it. Like, it just feels faster. Like, some of those kind of like long lags that you occasionally get with VS 2022, like, those just have been smoothed over so much more in 2026. So it just, I think yummy might be the word Mads used in the video. So if you haven't seen it, check out my video, link in the chat, or you can see my YouTube channel, youtube.kaboo.dev. will get you to my thing. It's the latest video that's posted out there. This was an absolute pleasure. I have to apologize to Mads, because if you look very closely, you will note that there is a difference between the title here and the name that I put on him on screen. And I kicked myself for doing that, and it wasn't pointed out to me until after it had been live for a little bit, and I was like, I'm not going to pull it down. But yes, that was a very unintentional mistake on my part. So I had kind of rushed when the opportunity came up. I kind of threw my streaming setup together kind of ad hoc, going, I don't, like, I guess I'm going to try to set something up here in a few days to get this ready to go. We're doing it. So we did it, and it was great. So really awesome. If you want to hear about kind of his perspective of some of the new features, obviously I'm going to be coding in it. We're going to show some of those features straight up. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. Next, VS Code Dev Days. Now, this is probably, unfortunately, for most people watching this video, you are probably watching this after the date and you aren't local. But in the hypothetical situation that you are watching this before September 30th, 2025, and you happen to be local to the Spokane, Washington area, we have a local VS Code Dev Days happening in Spokane, Washington. I assume this is going to open up, and it is being presented at Intelitech. I am the lead presenter. I will be there. It's going to be talking, now it's specifically VS Code Dev Days. So this is going to be effectively how to get the most out of your VS Code. Obviously, Copilot is a very big tool in terms of VS Code productivity, so that is going to be featured very heavily, but it isn't necessarily GitHub Copilot, although that, not shockingly, will be a very large part of it. So again, I'm guessing most people are going to be watching this either after the date or not local. So sorry, but I at least mentioned it. Okay, last one. This one is probably more relevant for people. So the Spokane.net user group, again, you'll note sponsored by Intelitech. There's a theme in case you haven't figured it out. If you poke around long enough, you'll figure out where I work. But Ben is going to be giving a talk on building MCP servers. And this is going to be really cool. Ben has been doing a ton of work around the, essential, I think I've shown this site off before. So essentialcsharp.com is a book series, though really you probably just want the latest version. If you're asking which edition you want, well, you probably want the latest one, because if you grab one of the older ones, it covers an older version of C#, and there's always been new features in new C# versions. The last print edition is here, and you'll note, secretly, hey, look, there's my name. So I'm biased. But there's been a lot of updates, and so as things change, the website gets updated first, which is kind of cool. Wow, that is... Might have to go adjust my camera. Apparently my screen is really whiting my head out. Let's try... No, that's no working. Let's try if I dial that down a little bit. Is that better? I don't know if that's better or worse. We might have to do some ad hoc camera work here. This is the problem when I haven't had a lot of time to test this. If I just move this off to the side, even better. There we go. But there is quite a bit of work that goes into converting a book into a website. Like, this is not a trivial thing to do. The amount of code that it took to do this is significant. It's not just as simple as take source material, format it nicely in HTML, because there's actually a full CI/CD so that as content changes for the book happen, they end up in the right place. There's a lot of work that goes into, say, hypothetically building a table of contents for the physical printed book, because you change a few things and everything shifts, and not having to renumber everything and having that all occur magically, like there's a chunk of work that goes into all that, and it's a pain in the neck. So I don't know how deep he's going to dive into it, but he has been putting in quite a bit of stuff. You'll note the AI chat in here, which is grounded in all of this material. So if you want an easy way of being able to leverage it, this is an awesome resource to do. Okay, that source is bothering me, so give me one moment, and we are going to I'm gonna just play around real quick with my camera and see if I can adjust this filter in properly so that it's not quite as aggressive. Because when you change your... There, maybe there. Let's see. Wow. That is... Why is it picking up so much extra there when I don't see it? There. You see my green screen fading in and out of the screen. We might go there for now, and then I will just... I might play around with this and keep futzing with it on the fly, and I will probably need to play around with this a bit more. So turn that sucker off. Okay, so there's that. So if you are around, this one will be streamed online. So if you are interested in it, sign up. It should be a good one. There's already 10 people in here. October 7th, 5 p.m. Pacific time for those people. So the Chandu 16, is that your website? So if you're referring to the Essential C# one, I don't know if I describe it as mine. I'm heavily I'm heavily involved in it. I'll put it that way. So, I think right now Ben is the. Oh, and thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it. At some point, I got to get pictures. The room is not done, but I have enough going for me right now that I am functioning in here. Yes, MVP is back. Thank you, Essen. But yes, so Chandu, yeah, this is one I am very heavily involved in and working on. But Ben, actually, the guy who is giving the user group talk, I think over the last 6 months, I think it's fair to say he's the prime engineer doing updates on here. He's been the brains behind like some of the account stuff, the referral links, the AI chat, a lot of content updates, the MCP stuff. Let's see, you're the author of the UI kit, right? So if you are referring to material design in XAML, specifically this guy here, then the answer is yes. I'm at least the maintainer of it. I am not the original author, but I have been the prime maintainer of it for like, I don't know, 6-7 years at this point. It's been a little while. It's been a hot minute. But yeah. So, and that one we will jump into in a minute. So yeah, if people are interested, definitely check that out. Okay, I feel like there was something else I wanted to plug while I was going through all of my stuff. It's been 2 months. I've got 2 months worth of stuff. Like, I feel like there's all these update things that I miss doing. Web form apps for Windows. The web stuff that I've typically worked on, at least on stream, I've often done Blazor stuff. So not necessarily that similar Windows Forms. I've done enough Windows Forms to be dangerous. My very first job out of university was building a Windows Forms application. And that was shortly before WPF released. And then after WPF released, the company transitioned to a WPF app. And so I was then part of converting a WinForms app into a WPF app, which we did the thing that Microsoft said not to do. We did a complete big bang rewrite of the whole UI layer. So it was like 3 weeks of me and the team just busting through it. Now, admittedly, the app was only like a year and a half old, which I don't want to downplay it because there was quite a bit there, but it wasn't huge yet, right? Like, because in a year and a half, only some of that time was developing the front end. And there was enough stuff that we had to do in WinForms. Like, WinForms was great because if you wanted to just start arbitrarily painting controls, you can do that. And it was easy. But the problem is it was like you were either in the happy path or you were at the low-level painting path, and like compositing controls wasn't trivial at the time. Like, I know there's been some improvements to WinForms to make it easier, but WPF made it so trivial with templates and whatnot that as soon as we saw that, we're like, yeah, we're jumping in on that. We are absolutely jumping in on that. Okay. Oh, that's right. Kraken. Hang on 1 second. I gotta switch this over. Okay. So let me pop a couple things on my stack here. See where this is going. I gotta kill some tabs. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so GitKraken has had like a bunch of releases. So I'm gonna move myself over to here. So I'm gonna be on the other side for a moment. So just to be clear on this one, ooh, that's the wrong screen. Let's try that again. See, this is how you can tell I haven't done this in a while. I'm getting real sloppy real fast. And I'm going to go back into here, and I want to take this guy and dial him up just a little bit more. That makes me feel better. Okay. Oh wait, I'm not getting quite as much spill, getting a little bit of back stuff coming through, but whatever. We will work with it. So the thing that I was attempting to do here, let's see, and then I want to go, sorry, playing with my streaming stuff. Shouldn't do that live. Anyway, so the key thing here, I am on 11.4.0, so if you are not on latest, the other thing to note is I do have an enterprise SKU license that I am powwowing on. So just to call things out. So GitKraken did something kind of cool with their approach to AI stuff. So underneath the preference, the GitKraken AI, you get this usage details, which for a long time, I don't know why people didn't show this, but the important thing here is this little word week, right? So rather than most things where it's like monthly, where you burn through your tokens, it's like, well, I guess I'm dead for the rest of the month. Like, the idea with doing it with week was so that go ahead and use it, because even if you use them up, like, you're going to be ready to go very shortly again here. Now, obviously, I have a ton. They've added in a couple SKUs because there's Pro, Team, and there's something new before Enterprise. There's like 4 tiers where there used to be 3, but regardless. The other key thing to note here is if you are in a situation where it's like, oh, you know, my company doesn't let me go to, you know, somebody else's AI server, I need to do this. Because when you use GitKraken's AI for things like generate commit message or things like that, like, it does have to send like the changes to be able to generate that information. Like, it's not happening locally. So they've got a whole page on their security stuff if it's just a matter of saying, hey, you know, are they handling your data securely? The answer is yes. They've got a page talking about it if people want more details. But if you need to run something local, you can easily drop into your own instance here. You can even do something custom, go against localhost, and just pile away, right? Like, if you've got Ollama running locally or you've got Azure AI Foundry running local, you can just send it there, and then it never leaves your box. Right? So you don't have to necessarily give it up. There is a SKU limit on who can do this drop down, though. I think you get it in Pro, but don't quote me on that. I might have to double check this. And obviously the organization admin, that only exists once you get up 2 levels with orgs. So for that thing. The other thing, like prompt injection, if you're building on AI stuff, is a potentially bug. In this case, it's a feature. They literally built prompt injection boxes in here for you to be able to go through and say, oh, hey, by the way, I want to add in some more stuff to add into the description. So I've been absolutely loving this, and we'll get to their rebuild commits thing because it is gold in my opinion. Specifically the compose commits with AI. This is like AI automated rebase, which is like, for anybody who watches this for a while, I am in the rebase over the merge commit camp. So on that debate, that's where I land. I feel like that's what people need. Devs like need a little thing like, are you a tabs or spaces person? Or you know, there's obviously a don't care option. Or are you a rebase versus merge, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so trying to remember it's been so bloody long since I was even in some of these, because the other thing is like this machine has been shut down for 2 months. I've been rolling on my other machine, so some of this stuff, if it looks old, it's because it is. It's because it is. Okay, but we got PRs out here, and we got stuff to do. We got a release that probably needs to get rocking and rolling, and it's gonna be great. Okay, let's start in on this. I feel like there was something else I was going to mention, and I don't remember what it was. It'll come to me later, and then I will just, like, when I scream out something randomly, that's what it is. So, okay, so let's take a little gander here at, well, I guess I've got the remote open out here. Or I guess we've got pull requests listed right here. Actually, I kind of want to get back. So the tree data grid one, I think, was the one that I wanted to look at first, because this one is Very hotly recommended. And I think I'm trying to remember where we went, because we reviewed this once before. And then we went back and forth. And then this one here. Yeah. You don't mind. I don't know that this comment can be removed. We'll double check this. And I do want to just validate it on a large data set. But I know we went through this before. So let's pull this guy down and let's check this guy out. So let's see. And I realize my big head is once again in the way. So right click on the pull request, add remote and check out. Let's see, already exists. Yeah, put my local branch there because I'm sure I checked this out once before. I don't care where my local is. There we go. There we go. So we got some stuff. And then Control-Shift-E. So, like, isn't it pretty? And of course it loads on the wrong screen, but that's a different problem. That is a different problem. So, okay. I don't know my window layout in this thing. So one thing I will point out, because I've shown this to people multiple times, I very much like so GitKraken has the ability of open repo and external editor, right? This Control-Shift-E, which is what I am triggering. Let's see, I believe that is in the, where's the external tools. So I had forgotten about this, that I had bound it up this way, because I point this to my dev.env.exe, which is Visual Studio, right? And which is fine. It feeds in the repo path as the arguments by default, which is great. You just point it there. But if you install new Visual Studio, this path changes, specifically because you'll note there's an 18 here now. So I installed the new version of Visual Studio, forgot that I did this, went Control-Shift-E and GitKraken went, I don't see it there. I went, shoot. So if you are going to upgrade, my recommended path is thus. Install 2026 first, because it'll allow you to import your settings from 2022. Then when you're happy with it, if you want to, you can just uninstall 2022. Just straight up good to go. Which is what I ended up doing. It will import most of your settings aside from a few minor things. For example, the default position of Solution Explorer is still on the bloody right. For some reason, that's not part of my settings and does not go to the left where it belongs, which is where it belongs, darn it. It's my strong opinion that the Solution Explorer goes over here. Okay, I will stop soapboxing. Let's see. I am on demo app, launch demo app. The other thing that I do want to go through and spend a little bit of time on, because I've been doing a ton of work in it, at least in my day job, and a little bit on side stuff, is .NET Aspire. So for people who haven't seen it, it's Microsoft's, what's the best way to describe it? It is a tools included way of building cloud native applications. So there's a lot of stuff that kind of comes in the box when you build stuff with Aspire, and you can either bolt it onto existing applications or start a project fresh. But you get this idea of an app host that is kind of like the controller of all of your entire infrastructure. So it'll handle things like if you have a database that you want to launch in a Docker container, it'll start that up for you. If you've got like multiple microservices that need to start, it'll start that for you. If you have, say, Azure Storage account or similar, it'll start that for you. But then it can use that same host to generate, because it now has a picture of your whole app, of what it takes, it can then use that manifest to go as far as spin and deploy my cloud infrastructure for me as well. So you can go from clone repo to up and running in Azure, and the slow part is waiting for the Azure resources to spin up. So it can be really powerful, and it comes with a whole bunch of things in the box about how to do like logging, telemetry, being able to connect services together. And a lot of these pieces already existed pre.NET Aspire, but you kind of had to know how they all work to plug them all together. Like the eye configuration system that I like to use on my WPF apps, that existed for a while. But having a system where it kind of is already set up and things are plugged together and there's a lot of source generators and things to just make that whole thing flow nicely is mwah. Wow. Okay. Tree grid view. Tree grid view. Okay, so multi-select tree grid view, and if I remember right, these two guys are bound to the same collections, which is, yeah, that's why you see the selection going between them. And then I think what I want to do is unselect with control and then just, so is that the same over here? Nope, I want to undo that. Oh, that's kind of annoying that we have that. Okay, so that's a bug in the demo app, and I'm a little, it's interesting to me that this thing here shows, I was just looking at, like, I see this max height, and that's probably contributing to this. But I don't like that I've now effectively lost my buttons. But yeah, if I remember right, this is all fine. Let's go and take a look at the PR itself. And then we may clean up the demo app just a hair. So let's go here. And this guy. So why did the pipeline fail? There was a handful of issues around some changes to like the build agents, so we may just need to kick this sucker again. And some of these pipeline runs just may be old enough that, like, what was the so test failure? So there, it could be a flaky test as well, which I'm not happy with when I find them. Flaky tests are bad and should be rooted out and destroyed. Do I not have the? I don't think I have the GitHub logger, do I? Let's see, dragging thumb changes saturation. That was, let's see, details, skips. That's nice that I got all that marked as skipped. Where is the failed one then? I see the logs with the screenshots, which means failed. Split button with button and pop-up can be invoked. So we may look at this, because that just gonna flag a notepad document here with that in it, because that feels like, just grab this here, throw that into my document, we'll come back to it. Okay, there's all of that. Let's go back to the PR itself, and then I want to go through the code, because I think most of this was looking good from my feedback before. Okay, so, because before it was a new control, not just a control style. So that's what we want to take a look at. Okay, so this has actually now been switched. I like that better. I vaguely recall looking at this, so I may have done this already, especially since all of these things are showing checked. Yeah, because this is the key thing, is looking for this view property. And this is an unfortunate part with when you style an existing WPF control, is the control is kind of outside of your control, pun intended. Like, we could spin a brand new control or we could just do battle with the way WPF was written with this view property. I think when it was initially designed, they probably had this idea that there was going to be different types of views, and then they never added anymore. So it's like, nice idea, not practical. What was the comment here? Yeah, because these ones here were off, but I think the new one looks... Let me relaunch and double check those margins. They looked pretty close, at least visually. Yeah, I mean, visually, those things look... So the only thing I'm noticing, right, is if I draw a straight line down on this B, I think we may have actually gone a little far one way, because now if I draw straight down this B, I'm a little over. Because in an ideal situation, I'd love for these things to be aligned, but I am aware that they are a bit off in either case. We may try to tweak them just to get those a little closer, but that's still very, very... It's close enough that unless you put these grids side by side, I don't know that people would really notice. Okay. Also, new Mountain Dew flavor, dragon fruit. It's good. It doesn't usurp my Baja Blast. That is the favorite, but you know, it's good. Like, good enough that I purchased several 12 packs and am happy about it. Okay, so let's go back to here. Okay, and so this is where those bindings are being placed. And because the unfortunate part is it is slapping the chevron for the expand inside of the thing rather than outside because of the column headers. And I just, like, I looked at it myself and couldn't come up with a better way of doing it myself. Izzy, welcome. Welcome. The renovated space is going well. Here, I actually, hang on. Let me, I posted a couple pictures in the Discord, but just to show people, here's what I started with, right? My desk, when I started, was in this little corner right here. Like, ye ugly, right? Like, these shelves were here, concrete walls, ignore the water damage, we had it inspected, it's fine. All that stuff, right? Like, this, and these shelves were not built to be taken apart. They had nailed them from both directions and then 90'd the nails off on both sides so that they couldn't be pulled out. I just started taking my Sawzall to it and cutting. Like, it was coming apart one way or another. I was just trying to... I've been reusing some of the wood because they were actually fairly sturdy shelves. And so a lot of the wood has been repurposed. But, you know, that's where we started with. We got the whole sucker torn down, ripped open, like, flat. Ignore my mess of Ethernet cables. Just pretend like you didn't see that. And then, let's see, here's one starting to get it framed in. And then, let's see, we can jump forward in time. I conned one of my colleagues, who is a former electrical engineer, to come and help me get some of the wiring stuff done, especially around, like, the electrical box. This is looking at that same wall, so I've jumped forward. We now have walls up, sheetrock. We were painting the ceiling, and these guys up here, these things are now painted brass. But along this wall over here, we're putting in cabinets, but the goal is to have it look like built-in shelving units. So that is actually part that's not done yet, that I was actually working on just prior to the stream. Let's see here. What else we got? What else we got in here? See what else I can find. So This is the other half of that space. So this wall here, right? This whole area here, this is, I am looking at it from the other side. So before this was just one big open space, and this thing here is going to be converted into, we're calling it a media room because there's no way, like, I don't have an exterior wall that I can put a window on, so I can never make this a legal bedroom or anything. So we're just gonna, TV's gonna get mounted here, and you'll note this big ugly bit of concrete here. Very obnoxious, very obnoxious. We frame that sucker in, and then let me see if I've got a good picture of it. I framed that guy in, and then I had the carpet guy just carpet the whole thing in, and you can see my wife she is the artistic one. So she is going through and she's going to do this pattern all along the wall. As you can see, she's going through there. She's actually fairly close to finishing it at this point. But then, like, my finished space on the other side, because we added this wall in the middle because this was like, I think 450 square feet total that we were renovating. Just put a PC monitor. It doesn't matter if it's Windows 10 or 11. Yeah, but the thing is, I have a TV. I have the TV to mount. I just need to grab it. And then I should have. Yeah, there it is. Sorry, I gotta wait for this thing to pull down. Because I didn't load all these in here. On my office side, because I use the term office loosely. We are putting in a Murphy door as the entrance to it. So for people who haven't heard that term, think swinging bookcase instead of a door. So the problem being is I have to manufacture the bookcase because getting one that's the exact size to fit in my frame isn't happening. And so I'm standing in said doorway when I took this picture, but this is the other half of my office area. So behind my green screen, yeah, a secret hidden door. Exactly. That is the goal. So this is, aside from the fact that there's tables and stuff stacked on them right now, this is what behind my green screen looks like. So I put hard floor down for my desk area because I want my rolly chair to rolly. But I also do a lot of board games and whatnot, and so this area, like, that's what these shelves are going to end up being, is a lot of board game storage. I have to build in these shelves probably this weekend. My wife is obviously painting them because she is the art one, and I got to get everything anchored in place. There's a few more boards on this that aren't here in this picture, but yeah, so this will be gaming area and whatnot when it is all said and done. So, and then I guess there's two more that you'll probably appreciate. So this is flipping back over to the media room. My wife found this painting that she liked. She was a little annoyed that it wasn't centered on the canvas, or the canvas wasn't centered on its frame, which was annoying. But then what she did is she took a couple hinges and she covered up the electrical box with it. So she made a nice way to hide the electrical box. And, you know, I got to frame in the door, and she's got the blue tape is painter's tape. So she is prepping for like a wainscoting thing or something along the bottom. I just build. She is in charge of all of the make it pretty stuff, because that isn't. I know that she is significantly better at that than I am. So she gets to be in charge on the make it pretty front. I just get to make it functional. So yeah, so I am still hacking away at it, and I thought it was going to go by a lot quicker than it did, but it is going well, and I'm at least now back into a functionalish state. At least I think I'm in a functionalist state. I feel like I'm in a better state. So there's that. My kind of make it pretty. Spray paint it black. Yeah. Well, she does have a paint sprayer. That was actually what she asked for Christmas last year, was an actual sprayer to be able to go through and do, because she's very good by hand. Like, she'll even paint little miniatures for our board games, and like she's got all the tiny little brushes and everything and whatnot. So she's very much good at detail work, and enjoys it. I get frustrated by it and do not enjoy it, which is why I let her do it. So, because she actually finds it relaxing and I find it stressful. So we just let each other do the areas that we find more enjoyable. Okay. So I think this guy here is probably good. Like, this is now much more akin to what I was expecting to see. We've got this kind of ugliness around the grid view. Let's see, Andrew, quick unrelated question. Andrew, there are no unrelated questions. I'm happy to field whatever. Do you have any solid reasons why a Windows desktop dev should dive into Azure? Ooh, I don't know if I would limit it to Windows desktop dev, or maybe you're just saying somebody has a background in that. So for me personally, and this is an area that I was potentially going to explore a little bit, I feel like even desktop devs at least need to know enough to deploy and connect to cloud services, because it's rare that you don't have to do any sort of remote backend. Like, I realize this library is a local desktop app, and there's no real database or anything behind it. It just runs. And if all you're ever building is simple client-based applications where you can get away with like a SQLite database or something locally, or even just local storage type situation, you might not care. But increasingly more and more, like Windows desktop devs at minimum need to know how to consume cloud stuff. And I think that's kind of level one, is you have to be able to consume it as a desktop dev. And then level two is you got to know how to spin it up. Yeah, Izzy's comment too about single sign-on, preferences, those types of things. Like, I think what I would say is my reasons would be, if I was looking at a dev to either help them, guide them in a career or hire them or similar, I'd say a dev that can consume cloud resources is level one, and then a dev that can spin up those same cloud resources is probably the next level on top of that, to be able to set it up. Because, like, say sign-on, right? Being able to set up some sort of identity provider so that, you know, calls to your API are appropriately authenticated and tied down to an AD group is probably worthwhile. I don't know if I would necessarily say the dev has to dive into Azure, though. Like, I think most devs need to be fluent in one of the big clouds, and AWS and Azure, like, that's going to cover most of the market, right? Some people may make arguments for Google's cloud or Oracle's or similar, but I feel like those are a little more niche. And so unless you have a compelling reason not to go AWS or Azure, I would probably tell desktop devs that you need to learn some cloud level stuff, especially with more and more things requiring more compute power than what can be reasonably done on a desktop. Like, AI is the first one that comes to mind. Like, most people are probably going to get into a situation where their apps are expecting a connected based environment and not just something that runs local, right? And some of the stuff you can get away with, like if you build like a Windows Store app, the store does give you some stuff so that you don't have to think about it. But again, it kind of depends on what people are building. But if you want to be building like enterprise stuff, I think that is probably what I would tell them. Is it's unlikely that your desktop app lives as a standalone thing. They get you on board, then quintuple the cost. Yeah, that's about right. That is about right. Yeah, no problem, Andrew. And yeah, and always feel free. I keep meaning to go through and put a little thing in my chat to tell people that, like, I don't mind off the wall. Well, let me rephrase. As long as the question isn't like grossly inappropriate or similar, like I'm happy to dive into whatever. Right? So it is all good. I am very happy to rabbit trail on things because some of my best streams have come from people saying, "Hey, I got a question," and so it's like, yeah, those are always the good ones. Okay, so I think I want to try to bump that sizing a little bit, and let's just see if we dial this sucker in. So let me grab our old pal Snoop, because we obviously need Snoop, and then I want to. So it's really disappointing. The monitor that I use. So right before I stopped streaming, one of my monitors died on me, and I was very, very sad, and I don't know what happened to it. However, my brother-in-law then said, "Hey, you need a monitor? I'm getting rid of one," and he gifted me a very nice monitor. See, Andrew? And I love it. The problem is it's a very large widescreen one, which doesn't make for good streaming. So I now have nice widescreen monitor just off to the side for me to put all my other stuff, but it just doesn't make for good streaming stuff. So we stream on this monitor. So my bad. Okay, so let's take a brief gander at what our spacing looks like here. So because here, what are we looking at? Let's see. I have a possible challenge for you, if it would be of interest, using .NET, C#, and WPF for UI. I mean, Izzy, I am intrigued. Go on. Okay, so let's see. This guy here, I just want to make sure I understand where this is set up. So this is the expander control. Those are probably the same. And then the items grid is what's controlling that. So really the question is, from the expander and then getting all the way over to the content, content grid. So the space between here and there, let's see. Writing a customizable Enigma machine app. So I know what the words mean individually. I'm curious because I've never looked into how Enigma works. So for people unfamiliar, Enigma was the machine used during World War II and maybe World War I for encrypting messages by the Germans. That I believe it was the scientists in Bletchley Park in Great Britain that cracked it during World War II, which gave them a bit of an edge. Let's see. I'm building my own physical one, but it would be cool. Oh, so that, okay. See, and this is the thing, like, I know about it. Alan Turing's team. Yes, thank you. That was the name that I was blanking on. Because there was a movie that came out about this, and I'm trying to remember what the name of it was, not that long ago. Well, I should say not that long ago. It was probably maybe 5 years. With... Shoot, what is that actor's name? As you can tell, I gotta look this up now. It's gonna bother me. The Imitation Game, that's what it was, 2014. So yeah, not that long ago, only 9 years. No, it's 11 years. Dang it, 11 years. Yeah. Yes. This is the movie I was thinking of. Yeah, because it was very popular, and I didn't get to go and see it when it was in theaters, but I went and my wife and I watched it when it came out on one of the streaming services. But Oh yeah, U-571, because that was specifically around the U-boats. See, I love World War II history. Like I have spent. My wife makes fun of me, but whenever I'm sick and like just laying in bed and can't do anything, Pikachu, long time no see. Welcome back. 18-month streak. That is impressive, especially since I've been gone for I think 2 months. It is good to have you back. It is going well. I was remodeling my basement where my computer was and am now at least back into a functional state. Remodel is not done, but we are making good progress. Izzy, so one, partially because this idea of World War II history is very intriguing to me. Do you have any links on like how Enigma worked? Like if you're building a physical machine of it, something 80% roll. Yeah, no. I told my wife Pikachu that I refuse to let it not get done and just get it to the point where it's functional and not finished. Like even tonight, I had my brad nailer out and I was tacking up trim. Like I have slowed down slightly where I am not going until midnight every night working on it, but I think I'm still putting 10 to 12 hours a week, like nights and weekends situation into finishing it because I want it all the way done. I want it all the way done. It feels so good. Like we had a handful of like small hiccups that slowed me down. Like, so I'm laying down the LVP, the hard floor under my desk, and I have messed up my measurements, and I realize I am one box short of what I need to finish the floor. And this is at like Friday at 11 p.m. And I'm like, dang nabbit. And the store is the place where we got the flooring from is not particularly close. It's about 45-minute drive one way. So it's kind of annoying. I'm like, dang nabbit. But I'm like, they're open on Saturday. I'll just get up in the morning. I'll drive out there. I'll get a box. I'll come back. It'll be fine. I drive out to the store. The very helpful gentleman there informs me that particular flooring has been discontinued. I'm like, you've got to be joking me. Conveniently, he did call around to multiple other stores and he found some, but it was going to take a week to have their other store ship it up to me. I'm like, well, shoot. So that slowed me down a week, but at least I told him, I'm like, I need some extra boxes. If this is discontinued, I'm not buying just the one that I need. I need some spares in case anything goes wrong. Or like my furnace started leaking water partway through the remodel. It was like, yeah. Yeah, Izzy, that would be awesome. That would I would absolutely love that. But my idea would need a different point of view. Okay. Yeah, again, I love. So let's do this, Izzy. Hit me up on Discord and let me know some like time frames that would work for you, and I would love to jump on a call and go through it. Again, I have a weird obsession with World War II history stuff, and so this is kind of like this type of area is very fascinating to me. Like it's one of those things that I will watch documentaries while I'm sick, just because like for some reason that's what when I'm sick, that's all I want to do is just watch an old World War II documentary on, whatever it's going to be, right? Generally, it comes from like one of the more popular areas, but even like going through like the battles for Sicily or Italy recently have been a fascination. So it's like I love it. I love it all. I love it all. So yes, shoot me some times that would work for you, and I would love to jump on a Teams call and go through it. Because, like I said, I know of Enigma, but I don't know much. I don't know much about like how it works. Like I've never dug into that particular bit. But yeah. Oh, I've been interested ever since visiting Bletchley Park, because You're not in the UK though, are you, Izzy? I thought you were somewhere further east. I'm blanking. You don't need to post it on Twitch if you don't want to. I realize some people don't like sharing locations, but yeah, it is absolutely one of those. I've only been over to the UK once in my life, and I would love to go back. I was only in London, and I was with my sister at the time, and so we only had, I think, 5 or 6 days there, and so we had kind of agreed that we each only got to pick half of the destinations that we were going to, and she favored a lot more touristy spots. Yeah. Oh, you are in the UK. Okay. I couldn't remember where you were. I was like, but yeah, it'd be very interesting to go over and like I'd love to go over again and go and see more beyond just London, because like it was nice and interesting, but there's a lot more to go and see. Like I actually enjoyed, we went up to, well, so hang on, I guess I lied, because we did Dublin, Edinburgh, London, Paris while we were there. But I actually had a lot more interesting time in Ireland because we stayed with some family friends, and so it was kind of nice having somebody local to kind of like take you around it and show you things, because you get a very different picture than when you're just doing touristy stuff. Let's see. I used to live between Bletchley Park and Silverton's Racetrack. Okay, that gives me kind of a ballpark. Yeah, I will say I feel like a lot of what I know about European geography and locations is dated, I don't know, about 6 decades. But, you know, some of those things are still fine. But yeah, shoot me times. Let's and because like I said, I'd love to jump on a Teams call and understand it more, because at a minimum, I would just be fascinated to learn it, and then we can talk app or similar and see what that might look like, because that's always kind of fun too. Silverstone Racetrack, where the Formula One happens. Okay. I am aware of that loosely. I should clarify. My knowledge of various sporting events is very small. It is one of the few things that is smaller than my knowledge of, say, movies and actors, which is also quite small. It's one of those, like, I will watch something and I'll go, that was nice. And my wife will go, oh, you know where that actor's from? I'm like, no. Should I have recognized them? They're like, yeah, that's kind of a big name. I'm like, oh, I probably should pay better attention. I was just watching the story. Anyway, yeah. So I don't do well with actor names or pop culture references in general. I feel like that's not 100% true. I have small areas of things what I do know. But yes, see? Yeah, it's one of those, I'm starting to reach the point where I'm feeling like my brain has filled up to the point where everything that I shove in, I got to push something else out the back. Like, I want to put more in, but I don't know that I can retain everything I currently have, so it's like something's got to give. And, you know, actor names, movies, yeah, those I'm happy to push out the back. Though I will say I do tend to also watch a lot of British TV, specifically a lot of like the panel comedy stuff. Like Taskmaster is absolutely one of my favorites. I'm bad at that too, but I have a friend who is unreasonably good at it. Yes, there are people like that, Pinkchu, and it's frustrating because it's not like engineers are dumb. We just prioritize a different set of knowledge. Like it's a different set of things that stick well in my brain. Like my colleagues sometimes make fun of me because I can recall APIs off the top of my head that I've inside of .NET, and sometimes they're a little more obscure, and I'll remember like behavioral details of a particular API's implementation like months after I've last looked at it, and they're like, "How do you recall all that?" I'm like, I don't know, that stuff sticks. The name of an actor in a movie I saw last week, that may not ever land at all. Yeah, it's like my tagging for the information going in. Certain things get the high priority tag. I only know Bruce Willis and Vin Diesel. See? And now the problem is, if you were to ask me for a movie they were in, I would struggle. I would struggle. Like, even one of my favorite movies that I watch because I think I watch the most movies when I'm sick. And there's a handful of movies that I go back to that I rewatch. Die Hard, the Christmas one. Yes! Thank you, Pikachu. You just went up a notch by calling Die Hard a Christmas movie. I'm in that camp. Again, that's another one of those things. People need to have a little card on where they stand on certain issues. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? That should be a question. Fast and Furious. See, I feel like I watched... Because Fast and Furious, didn't they make like 8 of those? Because I feel like I watched like 3 or 4, and then it started feeling repetitious, and I never watched any later ones. Because I'm not getting that confused, right? Because the very first Fast and Furious, I think I saw it around the same time I saw like Gone in 60 Seconds. Now, I realize I don't know that they necessarily came out at the same time. I'm saying when I watched them, I think I watched both of those within like a month of each other. And so occasionally I get which Die Hard was the best. Oh boy, Izzy. It's going to be either the first one, 10 now, I think, yeah. So for which Die Hard is the best? Either the first one, or what is it? Live Free or Die Hard, I think is the other. Is that 3 or 4? And I only throw that one in the mix because it was the first one I saw, and that was my introduction to the series. Yeah, first one for me. Because once I got introduced to the series, I went back and rewatched them in order. And like most series, the first anything that gets made into a series, my hypothesis is the first one has to be good. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made the subsequent ones, right? Because you can get a little bit of grace if your second one isn't as good as the first one, because you got a little bit of hype from the first one going through. So yeah, the first 3 were good. Then it just became copy material. Yeah, and it felt like there was some nice throwbacks on some of the jokes and references in there as well, and then yeah. Anyway, padding and margin. Flawless transition. Okay. I was trying to see where the difference was between that and whatever the heck this thing is. Why aren't you picking it up with my control shift? There we go. Okay, so this is going to be the fundamental problem, I think. Because that's a toggle button. That's an expander with a toggle button. Yeah, so this is going to be a little bit interesting of trying to get these two sizes to line up, because this, I guess expander is itself a toggle button, 16 by 16. And then that's not the right one. That's the hidden one. Because, yeah, you'll note here, the subtle difference is once because this row still has the same stuff, it's just being hidden and popped through, which is just weird. But I played around with trying to come up with a better setup for to how to do this grid view, and I think the author's original implementation is probably the best. I couldn't come up with something better. And so we went with it. Okay. I'm mildly tempted. Oh, so there's one thing I'm noticing. This guy's here. So what I'm immediately noticing is that red box is basically tightly bounded, which means the horizontal and vertical alignment are probably not stretch. If I'm guessing. Oh, vertical alignment is stretch. Oh, but it's inside of a stack panel, which inherently shrinks. Yes, because a stack panel sizes to its content. Though it's interesting, or at least it sizes its content down. I am tempted here. Let's take a look at this thing's. Because this guy is... Who controls... Because this stack panel has both items in it, so it's got to be controlled by padding or margin between the two. That's the only thing left, I think. I have contemplated at some point building my own layout control. Because there's a handful of things where it's like, I want them a little bit nicer. Like, I've actually contemplated porting some of the newer, like, grid APIs from, like, Avalonia into WPF because they're just nicer. They're nicer to use. They feel more modern, and WPF isn't gonna, well, I shouldn't say they aren't going to. They don't seem highly motivated to try to modernize it in that way with like new APIs. They seem more like they've got a big enough backlog that I can't imagine it's that high a priority. Okay, so because ultimately the issue is this indent here. Because the two areas that I'm seeing that are smaller is this distance here is narrower, right? And then and actually I wonder if I just if that distance got larger, this B would shift over, this guy would shift over, and then we'd have more space. Maybe that's the kicker. Is I just need to make there be enough space between those two things to have them line up. And I think it's probably going to have to be from the toggle button itself, because on forward and collapse, yeah, I think that's probably going to end up having to be what separates them. Because if we go up here and look at this guy, because this is a grid, and that's offset by 32. I just got to be careful how I do this. So how do I measure the distance between this and this? Because that's the margin. There's no padding. Let's look at this item. What is this items grid? Let's see. Grid. Oh, okay. So while I'm thinking about it, so some cool things in VS 2026 that people should go turn on immediately. So the new search view, which you can get in 2022, I believe, if you turn on the preview feature for it. But there is this this guy here, the enable search results exclusions, right? How many times have you done a search and it has landed inside of a generated file? So for example, hypothetically, if we want to exclude all .g.cs files from our search results, boom. This feature made me very, very happy. Very happy. Like gold level happy. So this is a feature that, and the performance increases, I think, are the two biggest reasons to go through. I will say the other thing that, I closed it, so I probably can't show it. The Copilot actually has so it says ask an agent here, but it actually has more modes. Like there's an extra debug mode where it'll help you through debugging solutions as well. Like it's got some extra, like before GitHub Copilot in VS was like second rate compared to VS Code, but now it's got some tricks that it can do because it has solution knowledge that VS Code won't ever get because it doesn't have that same context to play with. So it's one of those, it's interesting because it has access to more things, it can do things. Oh, other big thing coming. The code coverage, the thing that has been locked behind an enterprise SKU for way too long, is coming to all versions. Hallelujah. Like, for anybody who missed it before, there is a video, and I should plug this again, because I got to sit down with Mads Christensen, who is one of the guys on the, let's see, share, copy. Here's the link. Here's the direct link to it. He is one of the guys on the Visual Studio team, and he was kind enough to tolerate my existence and sit down with me and chat for an hour. I realized the video is only 40 minutes long. Not all of it was recorded, but sit down and do an interview on VS 2026. Like, and I'm hoping to be able to do more of this as well. So if anybody is interested, I thought this was awesome, right? And so huge props to Mads for doing it. But if you are interested in why do you go to 2026, this is a reason. And it feels like they are rolling out updates very rapidly on it as well. So it feels like every Tuesday there's just new releases coming. Now, that was kind of in line with the same cadence if you're on the preview builds of VS 2022 as well. And because 2026 it's not preview anymore. I'm sorry. It was renamed. It is Insiders. They standardized the naming between Visual Studio and VS Code so that people didn't have two different sets of terminology. I just wish they would have made VS Code change rather than Visual Studio change to match VS Code, but whatever. That is not my thing. Right. I was looking at the items grid. That was the whole reason why we got onto that, because I did items grid in my search and it didn't come back with anything. Why? I'm not matching on case. Okay, fine. We'll do this the old-fashioned way. Themes. List view. I want the item. So, not that one. Not that one. Grid view item. That is... Let's collapse some of that up. Where is the... Where's that grid at then? Am I crazy? There was a... Okay, I need to poke this thing through. Where is that grid? Because I think that's all I want to do is I want to figure out the appropriate amount of space to bump this. Bring that in, put that up, put you off to the side, sit for a second. So there's this toggle button here. And this one's built up in code, so like I'm not surprised that one's not landing me on anything. But when I go here, right, this guy here, tree list view item grid, it's got a name on it. Oh, I put items, didn't I? I did. I'm an idiot. Pro tip: if you don't spell the name of the grid properly, it won't show up in your search results. See, that's what I need AI for, is to tell me when I have not spelled the name of the thing that I wanted to search for. That is what its purpose. Okay, so there's the grid. And this is what I was looking for. So it's got a fancy, so the grid has a margin for its left side to be able to push it over. Great, fine, whatever. Right, that makes sense. But I'm looking for the size between the columns, because there's your expander. And our two expanders are the same size. And I don't care about the mouse over or the selection border. Those are just visual state stuff. So this grid just goes into the first. So these two columns should be, because they're auto-sized, right? Column 1, call span 2, but its left side is still going to be column 1. So why? So how does that get that much spacing? Is there an extra? Where is that much space? So what I'm looking for is where the spacing comes from, right? Like big gap, little gap. But this guy here is built in code, so I don't expect to find the XAML because that's the control template bit. But what I want to figure out is how that gap is so big. Like what is different about, right? Like that thing is still, I'm oh, there is a small difference. I just noticed that. By putting it inside the content, it has subtly picked up. And there's actually this left margin here that the other one doesn't have because it's already indented. Oh, interesting. Okay. Because it's inside this content grid. This guy here, his content grid is offset. Oh, that's a minor thing in my opinion. But how, like, this guy is 16 by 16 in a grid whose column auto sizes, which means its containing column should be, I guess we could just look. The column should just be 16, right? Column definitions. Actual width is 32. Where did you pick up the extra 16 pixels? Because the thing in here is only 16. Does this have a margin? There it is. So this expander has a margin of 8.8. I am tempted then. This guy's toggle button also has a margin of 8.8. Sorry, I'm looking right here in case that's not obvious. Where? Stack panel. Interesting. Let's see. Hessen, in WPF, I've created a numbers-only text box using linked approach. Is this implementation better than other common solutions? Let's take a look. Because I think the generalized term that I would assume is, some people will call this like a masked text box. That name, I think, leaches over from Windows Forms. So let's see here. So we've got class that derives from text box. Let's see. We changed the property metadata for the text property so that we can tack in a property changed handler, it looks like. Original text property change callback. So we do have that there. And then coerce customized text. And so it's watching the inserts and then tweaking the coerced value all the way through. My only question on this, does this work on a text box that isn't data bound? trying to remember the order of operations on when coerce gets called as part of. It's probably okay. So to answer your question, there's not necessarily an issue here. Most common solutions, well, I should say, one of the more common solutions is to hijack it earlier in the process rather than grabbing it as part of the text change. I see a lot of people do it with like KeyPress or similar, which doesn't work perfectly when you do it on KeyPress, because you could imagine the mouse right-click paste oftentimes then doesn't trigger. And so you'll often see things where it does, a lot of implementations do something similar where they grab it here and force the masked value. I think this works. My only thought, though, is on the coerce, I would test it in both a case where you've bound it and where you haven't bound it to a view model property. Oh, that's the only thing in there. Because this takes care of all the edge cases. Yeah. No, so to answer your question, this is perfectly fine. Especially for something that's like numeric only. I think this is usually fairly simple. Most people who take on doing a mass text box, they oftentimes they're doing it because they want to do things like, say, enter a phone number. And so they want it, quote unquote, better than just a regular, than just limiting to a particular character set. They want more customizability. And that's where things start to get wacky, right? Because if you look at like, because I think Ma Apps does this, and I think their implementation shows off how incredibly complicated this gets very quickly to do it well. Like, I think yours will work just fine. Where is it? Is it mask text box? Know why it's not finding it. I wonder if they buried it into an attached property. I might have to look around for it, but we can go here. Do they show it here? Interesting, they don't show it here. Did they get rid of it? I thought they had it at one point. Maybe I'm crazy. But yeah, I don't necessarily see a problem with this. Like, some people might scoff at the fact that it's a string copy, but you're going to end up with that anyway. You might want to handle the value coming through. You might also want an extra if case. So there's a static property on dependency object called unset value. You will sometimes run into that in data binding cases when a control is being first loaded or unloaded. So you might want, in addition to checking for null, you might want to check if value is dependency object.unset value as well. Because that will occasionally creep up. You may... yeah, this is more specifically an integer text box. Yeah, no, and that's a fair call out. And I think that's the thing that I was mentioning, where most of the time when people create a full mass text box, it gets more complicated because you immediately run into cases where that's exactly what people want, right? They want, their digit separators. They want to do, well, what if I want to type in commas, or, maybe I want it to be locale specific. And so, I'm doing French where the decimal separator is a comma rather than here in America where it's, 1,000 separator. So it's just, things get big and confusing quick. But yeah, no, I think that's a perfectly fine implementation. I think that is perfectly fine. I am... So this indents the stack panel. Interesting. Okay. But is there a better... I just don't know if there's a better way to do it. So I think what's going to end up needing to happen is this content presenter is probably going to need a margin added to it. And I think it's going to need to be left of 16 if I was guessing. That looks way too big. That looks a lot more akin to what I would expect. So I think that might be it. If we just add a left margin on that content presenter of 8, let's go look at, because that is tree list view. And then that is down here. Toggle button factory. Original content presenter factory, set value. This guy here. Content template, original template. Oh, so what is it? Let's see. So original content factory. I think you can just do it right here if I remember right. So content presenter, margin property, new, thickness 8000. I think that's all I need. Let's test that. And if that's the case, I'll push this up. We'll take a brief gander at that failing UI test, and then we'll see about merging this sucker in, because this one has been outstanding for a while. And then at some point I want to go through and actually get the release out the door. I've been threatening that for months. I need to just do it. I need to do it. There, those look very close. I like that a lot. Because now if I draw a straight line down on the X, right? If I can get my mouse to hold still. Oh, I'm not a gamer. There we go. All right, and then I draw a straight line down on the X here. Turn the DPI on my mouse down so I can click. Close enough. Close enough. I like it. 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 So let's go here. See, double check. So that's just a white space change. Big head onto the other side. Try holding shift. Oh yeah, so in that case I was using zoom it to do it. And shift does start the line tool, but it doesn't enforce a straight line. And my stupid DPI on my mouse is set very high. Okay, so we're gonna go there, and then I want to grab my notepad document. I have a strange suspicion that given that the test in question had nothing to do with the changes that were made, that this is a sporadically failing test. And so that doesn't instill me with confidence. It makes me... Why are you like that? Go there. So we're going to run this test really quick, and I'm going to briefly take a look at... Oh, I hope that I didn't just break it by jiggling my mouse on it. Nope, passed. Okay, so I want to look at what line failed. I have a sinking suspicion that's my bug, hypothetically. But I want to check the pipeline logs on it real quick. And then also grab the, because if I go summary, come on, give me the summary. GitHub, stop being helpful. Stop being helpful. Let me collapse you. And then I grab my screenshots. Open. And we look. You can see the screenshot at the point the test failed. So, what I can tell immediately is that because I see the ripple, I have a pretty good idea of where the cursor is. The pop-up content was in fact displayed. So, given that, and the failure was expected invocation to have count of 1, but was 0 instead. So, this guy here failed. I think what we want to do is wait for, because the way the maybe a spin wait rather than a task delay, yeah, that's effectively what my wait for does, is it'll keep retrying. I have to be mildly careful because I have 2 overloads on here. One is Boolean and one is not, and so occasionally I have shot myself in the foot by not remembering that is how past Kevin did things, and he was an idiot. But this one here will spin wait, waiting for a single invocation. And actually, we can probably get rid of the task delay now, because this guy here it's a poor man's retry, but he will attempt retry, and I think the default retry is like 5 times over 2 seconds or something like that. But you can obviously pass in different ones if you want. Yeah, because retry.default, I don't remember what retry.default is set to. Yeah, so it'll do 5 times over 2 seconds. So much better than 50 milliseconds, and then hopefully it will be less problematic. So that's probably better. Okay, Kraken, help me. Stage changes. What do you think of that commit? Yeah, sure, good enough. Okay, and then we're gonna, I do not know if I have push permission to this remote, so we're gonna find out. We do. We got push permission, baby. Thank you. Thank you. And then we've got auto merge. This should fire off again, and we'll let this guy go in, right? So the only check that's missing should be the build pipeline, which should be firing shortly. Yeah? Why you no fire? Where did that push to? Because this also doesn't show. This still says 4 files changed, and we just changed the test. That's not right. Let's see. Set upstream. Oh, it didn't go to his. Okay, hold on. It set it. Okay, it went to origin. Dang it! I didn't look at where I was pushing to. Bad me. Bad me. Do you give me a nice delete option? Delete. So I don't want to go origin, right? I just want, before I start deleting remote branches, I just want to be real confident. Okay, origin is mine. Muhammad Hadi 2031 is the real one. So let's change upstream to there. Huh? Ooh, this is bad. This is bad. I want not being able to see the full text does not instill me with confidence. I will be filing a bug report. Okay. Because I would love to be able to see all of that. But with that said, it's the only one in my list of remotes, so I'm very confident. Now we push. Okay, push successful. So now we right click, we come down here, and we do delete origin. Delete. There we go. So now the only two icons that I see up here is the original author's logo and my local. So now the PR should be running. There we go. Shows changes. 6 files changed. Great. Great. Split button test. Oh, dang it. Did I change this on a different branch? Crap. Rebase. There are merge conflicts. Of course there are. Okay, you guys ready for the best button ever? You ready? Auto resolve with AI. I love this button. I absolutely love this button. Like, the only negative thing I could say about it is it's a little slow. But it is usually spot on the mark for figuring out how, because you'll note the correct merge in this case sometimes requires neither left nor right and like a combination of the two, and it is shockingly good at hitting the mark. Shockingly good. I love this thing. Okay, so this left in the task delay. I guess we can put it back. Let's see here. And this is... Okay. I'm just checking. So in both cases, this one just got renamed for the switch to T unit from X unit. And so it caught that, knew to pull from that side, but put it inside the await. That's why it shows move myself out of the way. The reason it shows let me make it a little bigger. A black bar here is because it didn't actually take the line from up here. Even though it's the same text, it's indented. So it is technically an edited line. So it noticed that it needed to indent that well enough. And yeah, thank you. Like, hands down, if you need a reason to use GitKraken, that button right there, auto resolve with AI, best thing since sliced bread. Absolutely love that feature. Like, that is one of the coolest AI features. So I'll show this recompose commits with AI as well, because this one is kind of interesting. So if I hit recompose with AI, and it'll probably be okay. So the recompose with AI does have an issue where if you give it too much data, it just can't handle it, and it throws an error at you. So unfortunately, it's not slicing its data up intelligently, it's just sending it, and so you can very easily blow its context out. So hopefully that gets resolved or worked around or similar in the future. But we'll give this guy a minute to think. So you saw what I did there, where I immediately rebased when I ran into the conflict, because I am in the rebase, not the merge camp. So the auto compose with AI, what this ends up doing is it's, if you imagine you've been doing work on a branch and you've just been making lots of commits, it will go through all of those changes, logically group them, and rebuild different commits. And you'll note by default, it does the, what is the term? Is it standard commit message? Standardized commit message? I'm trying to remember the right term for it, where it starts to build these things out, and it separates your changes into logical ones to make you look smart, effectively. Can Recompose with AI use local AI model? Yes. And I'm going to put a small asterisk next to that. You do need to have a SKU that lets you have this checkbox underneath the GitKraken AI. And then you can point it at a custom URL, and you can use like Olama locally. You can use like Azure AI Foundry locally. Yeah, use on offline systems. Yeah, so as long as your GitKraken has an appropriate SKU, and I don't remember what SKU has this checkbox. So like it's not in the free one. And I don't remember what tier gets it. But as long as you've got this checkbox, you can point it at a local, like their sample here is even localhost, right? So you can point it at whatever you would like, and then you're off to the races, right? So you can use your local model. It never has to leave your system at all. There isn't a way to like in GitKraken, like all the AI goes to your configured system. There's not like a way to separate out the different AI calls into different systems. It all just goes to the one. Yes, absolutely, Izzy. Yes, and again, there is, this checkbox is behind a particular SKU of GitKraken, and I don't remember what SKU it gets added in at. So I would small asterisk there that it like possible, yes, with an appropriate license. But yes, you can run it totally local, off to the races, and have fun. But the coolest thing about the Recompose commits is now that it's regrouped them, it automatically opens you into the interactive commit window, which they already had, where you can do things like this. You can just reorder your commits however you'd like. If you want to, you can squash a couple of them together, which is pretty slick, right? Like this, it's like, oh, well, I want this one to be part of that. Oh, you know, let's go ahead and put this one as a pick, and well, maybe we actually don't want this change because, you know, it grouped, you know, some debugging lines together as a logical change that I don't actually want to include. So you get this whole interactive rebase, but what it's done, because it's redone all of your commits, this is functionally like a really, it's a smarter rebase, because a rebase just replays your original commits. This is replaying a new set of commits that have been logically grouped, which is awesome, right? So after you do this, you do have to force push, just like any other rebase, but you do have all of these awesome things. And when you forget the shortcuts, they're right there at the bottom, right? So you can, you know, control up, down, move stuff around as you see fit, right? Which is just awesome. Absolutely, like this. It took me a while to realize how cool this was. Yeah. Note to contact GitKraken people for business use. Yeah, no, absolutely. And Izzy, if you have any issues or need a contact there, let me know. As one of their ambassadors, if you need somebody to get somebody connected, I can make appropriate introductions for you. But yeah, so, and they do have the little thumbs up, thumbs down here, because this is like AI of, hey, was this helpful? Because sometimes, like, my biggest complaint with this, and I haven't spent a lot of time playing around with adjusting, because you can do the commit composer, you can feed it custom instructions, right? If you say, hey, I don't like the way you're writing your commit messages, do it like this, you can put custom stuff in here. My biggest complaint is I feel like it makes the commits too small at times, rather than grouping. Like, I find myself going, no, these two actually go together. No, these two, like, I find myself doing that more than going the other way. Like, so by default, I feel like sometimes it doesn't group things the way I want it to, but it's still really nice to have it grouped together, which, again, this is an awesome feature. Like, love the, like, this, again, when I saw it, I was very confused at first because I didn't fully understand, or not explain commit, but the recompose commits. And you can do it with your work in progress. It doesn't have to be an already made commit. Like it'll, because it's basically taking all of your commits and then breaking them apart into logical groups, which is so cool. So cool. So yeah, so that is Commit Composer. And I really want, and you know, it's got explain commits down here, so you can feed it in here. And I would not be shocked to find that Recompose leverages the explain to figure out how to do, like, I don't know what their back end is doing on it, but it would not shock me to find that those two things are somewhat similar. So that's been, like, I have been very impressed with their approach to AI, because it's been, like, they've tried to use AI to actually solve the problems I care about, rather than just giving me another chat bot, right? Like the explain commit, it was nice, but this is nicer. Like this is that extra sauce. So we like the extra sauce. Okay, so that guy, approve workflows to run. Okay, so that guy should be off and running now. Let's go take a look and see, because I think there was a couple other PRs out here. Because unfortunately, people have been doing like lots of good PR stuff. Let's take a look at Corvin stuff. Why does Corvin stuff have failing tests? Let's see. This fix is basically the state change event of the parent window, which I think this is what I was looking at right before I went offline. Because is this the same issue? This might be the same issue. And I think we can kill the evaluation required at this point. I think it's confirmed that, like, if it's in a milestone, that's what I need. I need a little bit, I want a GitHub action. So if anybody wants to submit a PR for this, I'd love it. That watches for when a milestone is added to an issue and removes the event. Well, do I want that? Because it's like, I think I do. I think I want the evaluation needed or evaluation required to drop off of an issue when it's added to a milestone or when a PR is open and linked to it. Because in both of those cases, it's really not like the evaluation needed is only there because I have trouble keeping up with the amount of issues, and if something doesn't receive some activity, we auto close things after a while, which is not a great experience, but it's the only way I can save myself on tons of cruft and try to prioritize things. Let's see. So if the window is restored from the minimized state, we focus the previously focused elements that got stored in the field when the window got minimized. I want to point out this artificial delay I added that we have in other places in the dialog host too. Yep. I couldn't get it to work without the 50 millisecond delay as described in my comment with the hacky code. Yes. And in a lot of cases, this 50 millisecond delay is roughly what the built-in pop-up controls animation needs. I do not have a good explanation. It existed in this control before I took over the library, and it has been like, this is one of those controls that I think is amazing, but I've often thought about how I might do it differently, because it has all the functionality I want, but the API of this thing has confused more people than any other control in the library. Okay, so listen for window changes. So what is this inside of? So, okay, so we're inside of the show. No, we aren't. We don't know where we are. Where are we? I think we're inside of show. No, we're in the on open property change callback. Okay. So on open is open is false. So we get into our else case. Come through here. Session ended, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we're getting a new session. We're starting this up. We've grabbed the parent window. I do wonder if this should be inside this if dialog host restore focus disabled. Yeah, I wonder if this should actually... Because how are you? Because we've got last focus dialog element, previous window state. Okay. So listen for window changes. So we're listening for the changes, but where have we stored the element? Task delay, continue with, begin invoke with a lower priority, invert query, yes. So this isn't a change to anything. What is this, a white space change? I don't get why this is showing up in the diff. Oh, the curly brace moved down from the end of the line. Okay. Listen for window state changed. Okay, and this is good here. So for people unfamiliar with this pattern, this is something that you end up doing a lot in C# with events, because events, when you do a plus equals like this, because the event handler is an instance method, the event is holding on to both a reference to the this instance, which in this case, this is a dialog host instance. So the window object has a reference to the dialog host object. And by unregistering first, this is a no op if it hasn't been registered, or it'll remove it if it is registered. So this guarantees that there's only one registration done. Okay. And so we watch for the state changes. This if is okay. We could probably hard cast. I don't know if it really matters. Like when it's a private handler, if somebody registers up a different event handler and it's not to the window, they probably deserve a cast exception, but whatever. It's not a big deal. So we're watching for the window state changes, and then when we go to minimized, we grab the focused element. Now I'm noticing this is get focused element of using the window as the root. So this may not be inside the dialog host. I wonder if this should be this rather than window here. Like in theory, your focus shouldn't be able to be somewhere other than the dialog host, but the dialog host doesn't necessarily have to cover up all the content of your window. Like that's typically how it's used, but even in the demo app, we've got some examples where, well, but it does not matter. I'm just wondering if the dialog host should capture and handle that or not. Like this, I wonder if there should be an extra check here on if dialog host, well, is opened is not actually a good check either, because again, the focus could be on an element that is outside of the dialog host itself. It may not be part of it. Okay, is window restore from minimized? That's fine. Is the last focus dialog element focusable? Yeah, very important to check because it could have changed. Like it could be data bound to something that's, for all I know, on a timer and says, well, nope, if the hour is past 4, we are invisible or something. Okay. These are both fine. It's just that call that gives me pause. It's that call that gives me pause. I want to look this up because I do wonder if we want to... I also wonder if this guy should be set to null afterwards. It's probably not a big deal. It's probably not a big deal. Let me look. I think this method's element that is the focus scope. I do. Yeah, because it's using window as the focus scope, and I wonder if what we should actually do. Now I'm thinking. So I'm gonna think out loud. So I'm in WPF. They have these concept things of focus scopes, right? You can imagine like when you're tabbing through a control, like you can imagine a form with like a group box where maybe your tabbing sends you through the elements of the group box but doesn't jump you out of it. That is a scope that is possible, right? A window is always a focus scope because you can tab through all of the elements of the window, and when you reach the last element, you go back to the first element of the window. You don't jump somewhere else, right? I am wondering if, because we could make, I think pop-up is a focus scope by default. I think I'm going to put a question here. We enforce that we only or that, let's see, last focused dialogue element is actually an element inside of the dialogue. Cases where the dialogue host may not cover, may only cover some of the window. It's possible for the dialogue to be open, but focus to be somewhere else. We'll leave this open. Corvin, like, for people who haven't run across Corvins on this library, like, Corvins has been killing it. Hands down, the most active contributor, maintainer of this library in the last, I don't know, 6 months. Absolutely killing it. Let that one go. That guy's still running. Prefer template binding over binding with relative source. That's probably true. Let's see. This fixes a runtime binding error. Yeah, relative source find ancestor is problematic, especially in cases where the control might be cycling, like in a list box or similar. The exact same binding I fixed in this PR is also used a few lines above. However, that binding does not throw the binding error. I'm honestly not sure why. Okay, well, let's take a look. So this is inside of the expander. The good news, really, one of those works and one of those doesn't. So the only thing that I'm noticing that's different between them is one has a transform group and the other doesn't. And the scale transform in the one above it has an X name set, which means somebody's doing something funky with this to reference it by name. It could be as simple as an element name binding or an animation or similar. All possible. Interesting. What is the bug in question? Let's see. Let's see. This is my code. Blah blah blah. Couldn't reflow this in the demo app. Interesting. It's shocking that that's the minimum repo or repro. Like, I'm not surprised. let's go look at this. Let's go look at this. Let's see, pull requests. Checkout. And then let's go look at, let's see, expander. Let's see, that's the demo. Okay, files only, please. Thank you. I need to remember to do F. Okay, so this change is occurring where? 319 G319. So let's go take a little gander. So we are, I assume, inside the main. Uh-oh, sorry, I just saw pipeline failed on the other one, so we got to go take a look at that. Hopefully it didn't fail somewhere different. So this guy here, let's start with this. Who is referencing this? I assume it's going to be a visual state. Yeah. And this is what I was wondering about, is it's assuming that it can target that and do a scale transform on the target property. Okay, so that's okay, so it's only named so that those things can go there. Is content site referenced anywhere higher up, or is it just that content site scale transform? Really? Why do you have a name on you then? Why do you even have a name? As far as I can tell, that's meaningless. How about you? Do you have a purpose? You do have a purpose. Wait. You're referenced right there. Okay. And you're just doing the opacity though. If I do this. So I intentionally do, so the only reason I'm doing the Control F is because I'm specifically looking at these little guys on my scroll bar to know where the hits are. Right? So I'm literally just using those as kind of a quick scroll up and down to know where I'm at. So it's only, so that's only there for the opacity. I wonder if the issue is because this guy gets hidden. I wonder if there's any reason to not just change this out as well. Let's find out. I don't know that there's not a reason not to just change this out. Well, that's thinking about itself. Let's go back here and what failed? Why are you failing? Actually, why am I looking at it here? Go back to the summary. Just go find the failure in here. Skip. There. Failed. I just want to see the failed hits. Let's see. Assertion. Expected get text to be null. but found invalid time. This is yet one more thing that is not relevant. Let's see, time picker with clear button. Well, we'll go look at that test here in just a second. So let's look at expanders. Is there... Doesn't seem like there's any reason, because these are the ones with the... These are the ones with the that property changed. Don't see any issues with it. Let's just send this. Stage, auto commit. Great. Push that, and then we'll go slap and approve on that PR. Submit, review, approve. On the difference in behavior is because second element is getting hidden with opacity set to 0. Okay, so we'll do that. And then that guy is approved. We'll enable auto merge, put it in the milestone. We'll put him in the milestone. And then that'll close. Okay. So let's go take a look at you, because you were like all of these failing tests. Yeah. Okay, so once again, I'm willing to bet if I run this in isolation, it works. But let me go back to the right branch before I get too carried away. And we are going to get this guy to pass. I am noticing there is a click and a left click delay. And so I'm wondering if I just need to wrap this sucker up in a wait as well. Let me grab the screenshots and just confirm that that looks to be the case. Let's see, 961. Gimme. So things that I'm noticing here, the ripple effect is still animating because you can see the thicker bar here. So either the click missed the target, which seems unlikely, or the animation is not long enough. Wait, 4. I think we're just going to do this. And actually, what we might do... we might allow for some amount of delay here. So let's do this. What are you unhappy about? Oh, because you need to be async. Hit the right overload. I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring both of you down. That way, in the event of a failure, it redoes the click. And then we're going to do then assert. And actually, maybe what we'll do is we'll move act down here and assert here. UI tests get a little weird because you start to violate some of the basic premises of unit tests. Like normally, so there's an idea with unit testing that you should only test one thing at a time inside of your test. And I usually will tell people that means one logical thing, right? That doesn't necessarily mean a single assertion, but you should test it, because sometimes testing one thing might require multiple assertions. That's fine. But you shouldn't have a test doing multiple things, which is often why I push for good naming of the tests, because if it's hard to figure out the one thing that your test is testing, it's usually hard to write the name. But when you get into things like UI testing, the amount of time it takes to set up and then the number of steps that you need to go through and maybe validate at each incremental thing, it's more like a full-on workflow than testing a small unit in isolation. So applying unit testing rules to things that aren't individual units gets you kind of in hot water at times. Okay, so I think this will be better. The test went green locally. So we will do this. Yeah. And then we're going to send that. And that guy should go. Wait, did I add this? Oh no, this was a different one. Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay. I was very confused for a minute. Okay, so that should go. That's running. Okay. That'll get us going. Okay. I'm happy with that. That's not bad. That is not bad. Oh, and this is going to be the other one to review. This is the next big one. This lovely gentleman ported over the material color utilities library. Like, this is a big deal. Like, and I knew it was a big deal when I opened it. I was like, "Woo boy, woo boy." So there's a little bit there. So yeah. Let's see. Yeah, and he went through the board of the library, also replaced int with color for internal usage and break with original source. And multiple searches. Yeah, this is very similar here, right? Multiple asserts per test. See, and this is where I sometimes break with people, is multiple asserts in my mind aren't necessarily bad. They could be bad. They're an indication that you might be doing too much, but not always, right? You should assert on one logical thing. This is how the code. So what is, I'm not familiar with this one. Let's look. Which compiler warning is this? Obsolete members. Oh, interesting. Okay. I will. Yeah, this I think will be the next one I want to look at doing, because this looks. We can improve the workflow to run. I looked at the code previously. I know that it's not nefarious. However, there's a lot here, and it does require some work. One other thing that I will mention, I don't think it's going to affect this library too much. The .NET 10 was it SLA? Is that the right term? The new .NET 10 stuff comes with a, where is it? Yeah. So Microsoft increased the STS support timeframe, right? Which is cool. Like, that is awesome. but there was a change to Net 10. What was it? Production license? What did they call it? Production SLA? Because normally people wait. Yeah, was it this blog that I saw it in? Go live support license. That's what it is. So this is something Microsoft has not done before, to the best of my knowledge. So release candidate 1, and anybody who wants to play with this, typically what happens is Microsoft puts out release candidates of .NET, which is cool, right? You can go download the latest bits, just like I run Preview Visual Studio. You can get preview.net and you can try stuff. My prior experience is that sometimes release candidates, especially newer language features, you often run into hiccups. They aren't usually like breaking, but oftentimes I will see issues like maybe IntelliSense doesn't offer it properly, or maybe some analyzers haven't been updated to take it into account, or things of that nature, right? They're major annoying, but they aren't like crashing, like this is unusable type situation, right? They're just obnoxious. But this time around, they said, hey, we are going to give you a go live support license. This is unusual, because you'll note everything in here for Microsoft support license stuff, none of these are release candidates, RC builds, right? This is the first RC build in this list where they're saying, hey, if you want to go play with Net 10, we will support your go live on a pre-release build. Now, I will point something out. The release date is September 9th. The end of support is October 14th. This is a tiny window. I suspect the implication here is that RC2 is going to come out before October 14th, and that people who are revving to Net 10 RC1 are in a situation where they can rev to RC2, right? This is not for the people that, updating your .NET framework, takes a long turnaround. This is for the people who are running fast and can afford to jump on the new stuff like the same week that it's launched type deal, right? But it's really cool to see something like that actually happening, because that's a lot of support and faith behind a release candidate. Like that's effectively Microsoft saying, yeah, this is how well we're testing our release candidates, that we could do a go live support license with it. Like that's pretty cool. Like that's very, very cool. Right? And so that is in there and coming, and I'm sure there's other cool stuff in here, but that was the one that caught my attention, right? You'll note WPF actually got, and Windows Forms both got mentioned in the .NET 10 release candidate, right? Now, admittedly, WPF is no new features, so quality improvements, which they've been hammering on bugs, but it's a small team and they can only hammer so quickly, right? But like Windows Forms got dark mode. Yes, it's 2025, but we got fully integrated. Like it's had bits of it there before, so it's not like, oh, brand new type thing, but it's like, yeah, cool. So there's that. And I think with that, I am probably going to call it for tonight. It is great to be back streaming again. I have missed doing this. I have missed coding. It has sucked doing the home remodeling thing, because like using tools is not the same as using digital tools. I like digital tools better. They're much nicer. They're much more forgiving. When things break, you just fix them. When physical things break, fixing them is not always trivial. So that makes it interesting. Yeah. So with that, thank you once again, everyone, for coming and hanging out. I'm going to plug the user group one last time, since I know not everyone was here. Let me grab that. Here, we'll go. Right, so Spokane.net user group, events. Oh, it was right there in front of me. It's right there in front of me. This guy here. So if anybody is interested in building MCP stuff, I'll be curious to see how. I haven't asked him, but Ben has been doing all of the Essential C#. So for people who haven't seen Essential C#, right, there's the link of the website. He's been doing a lot of the work on this, and so he is the brains behind like the little AI chat button down here, some of the authentication stuff, content improvements. Like, he is effectively the principal engineer on this thing for the last like 6 months. Now, I still review PRs and whatnot, but he's basically been responsible for all of it. But this is going to be a very good talk because there is actually quite a bit of work and AI related stuff that we did going into making that website possible. So I don't know how much he's going to expound on that, or if he's going to stick it a little closer to some of like the MCP server stuff that he built to support it. I've told him before that I think a great talk would actually be talking about the architecture for that Essential C# site, because it is shocking how much infrastructure we have to support one simple content-y website. It is absolutely insane. So I will probably continue babysitting those material design PRs just to get everything squared away and get those things merged. There's probably still going to be more test fallout. It annoys me that I have such flaky tests. I don't like flaky tests. So especially when I'm fixing them in PRs unrelated to them. But it's either that or I fix them independently and then re-merge the PR and find new ones, and I'll fix them in line. So with that, I will tell everyone thank you very much for coming and hanging out. It feels good to see so many familiar faces of people that most of you I haven't heard from in a couple months because I've been gone. So great to be back to regular streaming schedule, at least for the foreseeable future. And I will see you all next time. Happy coding.